Hey, hold on. I'm gonna try to introduce the show without having to, and just go into it, so I don't have to cut
Do
one
it.
of the things.
Do it.
All right.
I like this idea, yeah.
All right. All right. Here it is, another week. This is A Strong Disagree. That is Dan. The other one is Joe. My name is Trey. And welcome to our show.
I really like that idea. I think that'll save you at least 5 minutes, which I'm not saying that, like,
Except for
stupidly.
the 2 minutes where you have to cut this part out. But I mean,
Yeah, you just ruined what I did by doing that.
I improved upon what you just did. Because we're still going to have to talk about what it is we want to talk about. And you might have to cut that out, because whenever we do that, people make really inappropriate jokes every time.
I mean, if we're gonna get all meta, then yeah, no, I agree with what Joe said. It's a good idea to do that.
Yeah, but on a serious note, I'd say you just leave this all in, because at this point, if they're signing up, they're signing up for all of it.
Yeah,
so
yeah, they're dedicated. That's for sure. They're signing up for this and the other stuff. You know what I'm talking about.
But I mean, on an alternative, you could just say all that stuff again, and then I'll just stay quiet until you introduce whatever the idea is that you were going to talk about.
Jesus. I don't even know. I don't know why I'm here. I do not know. The saddest part is I have nowhere better to be.
Yeah, that's about
No
how I
argument.
feel, too.
My
My better place is like 30 feet upstairs,
yeah.
and just laying down. Yeah.
That 30 feet's gonna mean a lot in 30 years, though. Turns out.
Hopefully not 30 years. Hopefully like 50.
Did you guys hear? So did you guys read the? I think it was in the Wall Post. I read an article that
Okay.
predicted that by 2040, the world is gonna have like serious climate-driven warfare.
Oh,
Where people are trying to escape places that have become famine-ridden.
are we doing
for so
doing
long.
climate change part 2?
Is this
I thought it was
same-
going to be
I was
about
just
old
curious
people.
If you had heard about
We already
this
did
specific
the-
story.
We just do the. I mean,
Okay.
here's what
You guys got something else?
here's the article I'm gonna write. Yeah, all that stuff's coming. It's like. It's like if you were like sad that your car broke down and then somebody was like, "Oh man, how are you going to get to work?" It's like, "Yeah, dude, that's why I don't want my car to break down." It's like, yeah, that's the reason we don't want global warming is because pretty soon people are going to have to fight over water here. They're already fighting over water. People are already fighting over environmental problems. That's already happening. We just
I get
don't
it.
have to do it here.
I definitely get where you come from there. I feel like sometimes when I hear about the latest global warming paper, it's like, oh no, but your birth certificates are upstairs in that filing cabinet. It's like, motherfucker, my house is burning down with all of my possessions. I assume I can call a government agency and get a new fucking copy of a stupid goddamn document. All of my shit, everything is just gone now.
I
And
really
that's
like
what
that
I'm concerned
analogy because it was like slightly more boring than just talking about the environment.
Yeah, so there's going to be wars, so that's going to be bad. That's sad, though. The Washington Post is pretty sad itself, though. So if the Washington Post said like that they thought that in 10 years that they weren't even going to exist anymore because of climate change, I think that'd be the better article.
Oh my god, that would be so funny. We don't think we're going to make it.
We're not going to make it because of climate change.
I know we told you last week that our funding was going to run out in like 3 months, but we're probably going to make it past that. But we won't make it 10 years.
We are starting our fall fund drive, though.
Yeah, they could start saving up then. Okay, so on a serious note, I wasn't trying to say we couldn't talk about global warming part 2. I was just trying to say you brought that up because of old people. So I thought you were going to say something like there's like some new study that by the time we're 60, we're all going to have really shitty knees. Like
I
there's
brought that up
something
'cause
in the
of old
water.
people?
Yeah. Yeah, you were like, don't worry about it.
I
Don't worry
brought
about
that
it.
up
Don't-
actually because like my kid's gonna be like, oh shit, I'll have to do the math. Hang on.
fighting in the
30.
war.
He'll be like 30. He'll be my age at 20 in 2040.
Oh, no.
Yeah. Yeah, he'll make it. He'll make it through that.
You had unprotected sex so that kid could die in a climate change war. That seems like a fucking cold move, bro. Why would you do that to him?
Okay. Yeah,
Why would
if
you do
you're
that to your
questioning
kid?
the morality of me choosing to bring a child into the world as it was, I remind you that Donald Trump was not president.
Yeah,
at
it was
the time.
back. It was Obama
This
days.
was before
Yeah.
everything hit the fan, and it just looked like we were strongly about to hit the fan. Like this was in that happy medium. Okay, so give me a little bit of credit,
Yeah,
and don't condemn me forever.
I'm not condemning you. I don't
Like,
care because
don't
I'm
pull a
not your
God
kid.
thing, I guess
I
is
just,
what I'm saying.
I,
Just don't pull torture me forever thing because I made a mistake.
He's just trying
No,
to go on the record so that if your kids show up at his house in 30 years, he can be like, "Yeah, dude, I always thought it sucked for you.
Yeah.
It's never."
yeah, I told your dad he was wrong for making you.
I mean, if my kids show up at your doorstep, I assume you'll share all the sweet, sweet Patreon money that we're making with them, right?
Oh, God,
They better
that
have a
is such
sign because at that time I'm going to be knocking out anybody within 150 meters of my home.
Yeah, what's the post-apocalyptic version of an at mention?
Okay, so are we doing global warming part 2?
No, we can't.
Or
Talk
did
about
you guys
global
actually
warming
have some shit
There's
that
nothing. Nothing has changed.
Wait.
It's gotten 14 days worse.
Yeah, that's it. I think.
14
No,
days
no,
worse.
everything's changed. No, again,
Okay, that'd be.
never mind.
I'd really.
That was just the first thing that came to my mind, and it, I had a good pivot, so I went to it. But what do you guys got?
As per usual. Anything, nothing.
Well, yeah, your schedule is pretty busy, so I can see how.
Oh, so goddamn busy, man. I can't get around to reading the news. It's rough.
All right.
It's rough.
All right. Thanks for tuning in. No, I'm kidding. Okay, so I'm not going to vote.
Whoa, fuck you.
Yeah.
Seriously?
Yeah. Surprise.
I mean that in the nicest way possible, but please get me on board a train that doesn't end with me wanting to say "fuck you, Trey."
Wait,
Come on.
just to be
Woman.
clear, you mean in the primaries in Arkansas?
No, it's
Well,
not
I mean in
primaries
the
anymore.
actuals in
The
Arkansas.
general election.
Or do you mean for our topic? I just wanted to be
Oh,
super
okay. I see
clear.
what you're saying. Yeah. No, I'm just not going to vote.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, why the fuck?
You never know.
Your state is
you never
deeply
know.
red.
No, you never know that you're in a swing state until it's a fucking swing state. That shit happened last election.
No, those states
what?
should have known they were swing
Pennsylvania
states.
was not considered a swing state. Michigan not considered a swing state.
Yeah, but
By who?
No,
Not considered
that's
by.
how
Not
they are.
considered by who? By
Not considered
Hillary's
by
team.
most political analysts. Not considered at the time by most political analysts to be a swing state. They were considered blue states, had gone blue for many, many years. The same thing is true for what happened in the Bush v. Gore election.
yeah,
It's
There were
kind of
different
what you're
states.
saying is kind of true, but neither of those things are relevant to me.
Okay.
I
What's
could
your
be in
reason
the
for not-
swinginest
for not
state
taking the
in
time to
the
vote?
world.
What's
They could
your
just
reason for
come
not
to
taking
my
the time to
house
vote
and
in
knock
the
on
free
my
country
door.
that you were born into out of moral luck? What's your reason?
wait, time out. Are you pitching the idea of like the candidates are showing up to your house and you literally get to choose which one?
Yeah, or if they just brought like a big placard with their pictures, and I just would like point or whatever they would want to
God.
do. I mean, they could text me.
That's so tight. That's a good idea. Anyway,
Leave
okay,
those
go
bitches
ahead.
on red.
Why aren't you doing it?
Yeah, go ahead. That's just it.
Yeah,
I'm
go-
just gonna not vote.
Go ahead and not go ahead and tell us why. Tell us why. Danny's intrigued.
So I just turned 36, which means I've spent half my life voting.
Have you voted in every election, Trey?
Yeah, I turned 18 on October before Bush Gore.
Damn, son.
So you're
I've
like,
been
maybe
voting.
don't fucking talk to me about Bush v. Gore. Okay?
No, I just mean I was
actually
I've been
17.
I've been voting for
during
all
that
of that
election.
for the entire time. Yeah,
Yeah, I was 17, and that
28
that one
days.
fucking hurt. That one hurt real bad.
Yeah, so I think I've given it enough. I think I've paid for all of the dead people. I think I've like officially given whatever like the appropriate amount of respect is to all the people who have died, so that I could go vote.
Okay,
Which is the reason.
what do you
Which
mean?
you know, and so that's all right.
So like you met that threshold with like what, the last election?
Man, honestly, I think I met it 2 elections ago.
Okay, yeah. Now you're just like running in the green.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now I'm just clear. I gave and some extra.
It's like what? I mean all these following questions in the nicest way possible.
Go ahead.
What do you feel
don't
like is
need
the
to do
cost
that.
to you in terms of like what it costs you to go and vote on election day?
Oh my god, I see him. He's slow rolling. I see it churning up already.
Okay, what's the cost to me to go vote? Are you
Yeah.
you're asking me like
Personally, what does it cost you? Like in terms of both money and like just personal, like the value that you put on the time that you otherwise might lose. Like some people don't have employers, for instance, that will let them take off time to go vote. In fact, many people don't, because it's not a standard in our country for some reason.
right? Almost nothing. I live. I know for an absolute fact that I live 1 minute and 17 seconds from my polling place, and there's
Oh, that is
never a
so
line.
tight.
I've never waited in line ever.
That's so tight.
Never
That's
had
really
a problem voting in your 18 years of voting then.
You know what? I'm never. When I lived in Lawrence, I had a shitty voting spot, and I went with a bunch of people. Like when I was just in college, it would have been the 2002 midterms. I went with a bunch of people, and so I waited then. But it was like a bunch of I waited on the group that I came with. But other than that, no, I've never stood outside, never never like
Okay.
had a
I really appreciate
phone.
though that you like recognize that as bad enough to even mention. Yeah, it's rough. I mean, it wasn't really rough, but I remember.
Well,
it,
I'm just
but,
saying I've
you know.
never had any trouble. The
Can-
one time I waited, it was my own fault.
I take it that I think I know how you're going to answer the next question, but I'm curious to know what your
So
actual answer
excited.
is.
I'm so excited. about the-
What do you perceive the value in your casting that vote is?
Oh, okay. This is not what I thought the second question was.
Oh,
gonna
I think
be.
it has. I think it has a net negative value, so that's why I'm not doing it.
A net negative.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm,
I'm
gonna
really
not do
curious
it.
to hear that. Let me hear it. How would it ever have a negative value on impacting and trying to push policy towards the direction that you support?
Couple things wrong there, but I'll try to answer that most simply. I won't get into all of the things in there, but I would say that.
Did I pack a lot in there? I'm sorry. That was not my
Totally
intention.
Yeah, no, it's fine.
I was actually trying to keep
yeah.
it simple.
No, it's fine.
And if I pack stuff in there unknowingly, I'd be curious to hear what those things were. Honestly.
Okay.
So debate it all.
In the earliest, the validating the system is the net negative. That's like at the base level, validating the system is the net negative, and then like one step in front of that is whoever I vote for, specifically validating them.
Okay.
So those are the biggest worst problems with it. But you asked me what would be the net negative of voting for someone that moved my politics forward, and I would say that there are no people to vote for who would move my politics forward. I'm not
no
voting for. Yeah, there aren't candidates that would move my personal politics forward.
There's no one that would even move them more towards the direction that your personal politics are compared to where the current elected official is.
Closer to my preferred politics.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's. I mean, not in any way that would. That's why I say a net negative. Not in any way that outweighs the great negative of endorsing the system. Nobody who I would want to be in charge would run or even take the job if it was given to them. Like, by definition, there is no one to vote for because no one who I would support would run or would take the job.
I definitely understand where you're coming from there, actually, just intuitively speaking. Most smart people I know would wisely avoid that position at all costs, right? Because there are more profitable places that they could go, and those jobs tend to be actually easier, and your mistakes are way less visible. So, I mean, I totally agree with that sentiment. But
yeah, I'm talking about anarchy, but I definitely think what you're saying is true also.
Yeah, I was like thinking about that the other day because we're rewatching Parks and Rec, and it's just like, who is like the person that I want to be a politician is the person who's willing to be like, I'm gonna vote on this because it'll destroy my career, but it's just like the right thing to do because like, why would I vote that other way? And nobody does that. Who's this person that's like really psyched on getting into politics for 1 month?
Right.
That was a fun run. It took me 10 years to set up this thing, but now I'm done.
I mean, perhaps those people get into politics. It's just they never make it to the national level because they're so willing to stake themselves out on an ideological position that they're not willing to compromise on that, they can never advance their careers.
Yeah.
That's
true. It's like self-selecting in that sense.
I would say for me that the people that I would want to run would be throwing shoes before there was even a vote. Like there wouldn't, like they're not even getting to the vote. They're throwing a shoe at someone who's talking on a podium and getting arrested. That's what the people who I would vote for. What happened to the people I would vote for? It's the like voting like the like the John McCain shit with the thumbs down. That was seen as heroic by some people. That's like so far from actual heroism. To participate in what these dudes are doing is to debase oneself so egregiously that I couldn't respect or vote or support or work for anyone who was willing to do that. It's so far past. Even like the people who give nice speeches are so terrible that it's like what I'm not impressed by any of the heroic votes. Not even close.
Am I hearing both parties are made of politicians and all politicians are bad, so like I can't support really any party? Is that kind of what I'm hearing?
No, I wouldn't like to separate the parties. I think separating the parties works well for us at the ground level who want to separate the people that we see into smaller groups so that we can better interact with them. So it's like, it's easier.
I mean, there's
us.
also just the reality of most general elections that it's really just in all reality a two-party system, right? Like, unless there was some drastic change, the only two parties that ever have a chance of really getting elected to most positions of national prominence are Republicans and Democrats.
Yeah, I don't really believe that. I mean, I see what you're saying.
Or former Republicans and Democrats that have now become independents.
Yeah, what you're saying is true, that it's far easier. What I'm saying, though, what I meant was that it's like like if somebody identifies as a Republican or a Democrat, that says a whole lot about them, which is like a shorthand. You know, we have to interact with all these people all the time. So like, you know, if somebody's going to wear a certain shirt or like identify as a Republican or Democrat, or like that guy's a Yankees fan, or like this person showing up into a job interview in sweatpants, like there's like, it's a good shorthand for us to learn a large amount of information about someone but in a very short period of time. And so in that way, it can be helpful in the way that stereotypes are sometimes helpful. But as a two-party system, like as our government, saying that there's the two parties doesn't mean a whole lot to me, because it's really just one. The one government is much more important than the two smaller parties. The minor differences between the two parties, it doesn't make that big a difference when it comes to the entire government. That's what I mean when I'm saying it's like a two-party system. It's like kind of, I mean, I would say it's closer to like, you know, saying that somebody is like the point guard and somebody's the center on the team. It's like they do different things kind of, but it's all, their goal is still the same.
Yeah, it would be just like saying someone was the point guard and the center on the same team. Yeah. Yeah, sports metaphor about basketball.
Oh, I thought you.
I was like, I don't know. I thought that kind of makes sense. Yeah, I just mean like, yeah,
like throwing a free throw without going for the rebound afterwards. It'd be like that, right?
No, but good try.
It's actually
really
that actually
joining the anti-sports metaphor team.
That was also like the 19th sports metaphor that I came to, as I was like, it's got to be dumber, it's got to be dumber, it's got to be simpler, it's got to be simpler. And I got that one.
Here's the thing: you got to avoid basketball with me. Like, I can understand every game except for that one because I just can't fucking play it at all. So I can't watch it because I get so jealous.
Well, yeah. All I
that.
meant was that there's not a huge difference between Republicans and Democrats, and we focus almost entirely on the things that are different about them. So it seems that they're wildly different. But you know, you can go back and look at the vote on the Iraq War, or like I don't know, just the fact they're all white guys wearing suits that go to the same building every single day, and it's not like wildly different. But yeah, so that's my thing. I don't really care about the two differences, but I do like that we have them so that I can see like, you know, I can avoid people easier.
Can I try for like a few minutes to see if I can put together a coherent argument that will convince you to vote?
I would love
Yeah.
to see that.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm going to hold on though. I'm going to tell you
Go ahead.
no.
Poison the well. Poison the well. Here it comes.
No, I just want to tell you before you get in, you know, take a breath, because what you're attempting to do is to convince me to do something that the U.S. Constitution couldn't convince me to do. So,
and you're politically motivated in your beliefs, which means that it'll be almost impossible to convince you otherwise. Like,
am I politically motivated in my beliefs?
Well,
yeah, I
mean,
guess so.
This is
okay,
a
fair enough.
political issue,
Yeah, sure.
So
okay,
I would assume so.
Yeah,
That's fair.
Okay.
So you're going against Alexander Hamilton. That's what you gotta be more. You have to be more convincing than him. So go. So if you want to take a second,
that's fine.
Me and
that's
Joe
fine.
can
My
talk
understanding
about
of the
that.
guy was a fucking douchebag, so I'm fine with that.
That's good. If you're gonna beat him, you have to tear him down.
Yeah, that's a good
Right,
start. That was a
exactly.
douchebag.
That's very good. Yeah.
There's a good time to bring up slavery. Anytime we're talking about founding fathers, you want to drag them out.
Yeah.
Slavery's a good thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Trail of Tears. Trail of Tears. Too. That was his. At any rate.
Those are both good.
I live on the Trail of Tears. It's
Oh,
It
I
hits
thought
home.
you said y'all. I thought you said y'all.
I thought he did too.
I was like, I don't think we do.
Do we?
no,
Do we live? Wait, hang on.
no.
Do we live on the Trail of Tears?
If the trail went,
Alright.
yeah, no, it wouldn't be. That would be like a difficult road trip that ended well. If the Trail of Tears ended where you are, that wouldn't have been. That would have been nearly as sad a story. as where the actual Trail of Tears is.
Yeah,
okay, anyway, so go ahead, Dan.
Okay,
Go
so first of all, can we all get on the same page that I believe the current percentage of America that just chooses not to vote, but otherwise is able to, I think is the last estimate I heard was something like, on the low end, 30%.
That 30% of the public chooses not to vote?
Chooses not to vote.
Okay.
That's a low ball. Can we all agree?
Sure. I don't know
I've
what this
heard
poll
estimates
is.
as high as like 50%.
Is this
Like voter turnout is what we're talking about.
Yeah,
Oh,
but
yeah,
the number that you're quoting, is this like they did some statistical shit to figure out if some of these people, they could prove that they could get off work, and so they know that it's like.
I think they weeded out people that like
cool.
people
Right.
That's all I
couldn't
need
get
to
off
know.
of
Yeah,
work
that's
and
what
stuff
that's
like
what they
that.
were saying.
This is
Agreed.
This is more advanced than they didn't vote.
Right.
Gotcha.
Yes.
Go.
Which is why the number is way lower than the actual number of like closer to 50.
Gotcha.
At any rate,
30 to 50.
the point is that there's a huge percentage of the population in America that does not vote. And the fact of the matter is that while fake news, much has been made of it over the last couple of years since Donald Trump got elected, I don't think that the sway of fake news is greater than what we would actually see if those 30% just freaking voted. Right? Because if you poll people on individual issues about like social policy, about taxes, about almost anything, they all come out on the left side of those issues. And so I think that if people just all voted, we would have a different story. And I do think that that's something that you can't just immediately discount just because of the fact that there's an electoral college and things like that for presidential elections that seems to make kind of discount your vote in some circumstances down there in the South.
Okay, but so that's an argument against voting if I didn't think that my vote would matter. Which I agree.
Right.
Which I agree with.
I did ask you.
Yeah.
I asked you if you thought your vote mattered, and you said no.
No. Remember, I said that the reason I don't vote is because I think it's a net negative. I think my vote does matter, and that's why I don't vote. My refusal to vote is the like. This guy voted for Hillary. This guy voted for Trump. This guy didn't vote on all. All three of those people did it exactly what they intended to do, and you can like learn as much about those people from their actions. I'm not staying home because I don't think that my vote matters. I think it does. I'm scared that it does. So I'm keeping it.
So if you agree,
I'm not giving it to those fucking assholes.
To be clear,
Nobody.
A vote uncast truly does not matter.
Right?
That's the only vote that does not matter.
I would argue against that. I would argue against that, surely. Okay.
Tell me.
Let's
tell me how an uncast vote does anything, because I'll tell you, I've heard a lot of arguments that I'll send a message by not voting, and I'll tell you the truth. There's no politician in the history of the world that's ever cared about the people that didn't vote for anyone. Because they just care about people that vote.
I would say that every politician cares about voters who don't vote, and that's why they're trying to get people who don't vote to vote. Because if everybody who voted last year voted this year, it wouldn't matter what candidates showed up. It wouldn't matter, it wouldn't matter who they paraded out there. If we always knew what people were going to vote, and we know that people very rarely cross the aisle, then we would be able to guess who was going to win every election. But getting
let me be clear what I meant. So after whoever gets elected, they're not going to go back and try and figure out through polling what the people who didn't vote for them thought.
Yeah, that's exactly what they do. They're
going to figure out what the people who did vote for them thought and try and double down on that as much as they can and expand their base in as many ways as they feasibly can to maintain their electorate.
Yeah, that's how you expand your base, though, is you figure out the people who didn't vote for you. You got the people to vote for you got X amount of people to vote for you already. Now you try to figure out who didn't vote for you, and you try to bring them in. That's how you expand your base. The only other way to expand your base is to have your base have unprotected sex with each other and then wait 18 years. In order to expand your base, you bring people who didn't vote for you in.
You were just going to say vote twice. But
or vote twice or whatever. I mean, it's terribly important who didn't vote. In fact, we've spent the last 2 years in this heated debate about why Hillary lost and what, and why she didn't go to Wisconsin, why she wasn't there in Michigan, and how had she been there and convinced people who didn't vote to show up and vote, how this would have been different. Obama said last week that there's 100,000 votes across the country, or actually 100,000 votes in these, is it 6 places? I think he said 100,000 votes in 6 places where had they shown up, the election would have gone the other way. What you're saying is that politicians don't care about people who never vote or who refuse to vote or who aren't old enough to vote, because all they care about is getting your vote, which I agree with.
I think that's who the politicians focus on, and that's why I think that the idea of I'll send a message by not voting doesn't seem to be very sound to me.
If I was trying to send a message to a specific politician or to one of the parties, then I would agree with you that I wouldn't be sending a message with my vote, with my non-vote. But I don't give two fucks what those politicians think, so I'm not trying to tell them anything.
In our de facto two-party system, you essentially have 3 choices, right? You could vote for Republican, you could vote for a Democrat, or you could not vote.
Essentially, yeah.
Right?
Correct.
Right. So, can we agree that, unless it happens to be an oddball Republican, they're probably not going to have all the policies that you want, or at least as many that are in line as the average Democrat that might be running?
You're asking if an average Democrat is more closely aligned to my values than the average Republican?
That's exactly, yeah.
Yes, in general, most Democrats are more closely aligned to my values than Republicans are.
So explain to me why it's not in your favor to vote the Democrat in whenever you can and try and get them to amend the system to fix the problems that you have with it. Because, I'll tell you, the party that's not interested in fixing problems like voter disenfranchisement and things like that, it's the Republicans, right? That's what we've definitely seen.
Yeah, but I think you can tell from this conversation we've had so far that I don't care about voter disenfranchisement. If there's one issue I don't give a shit about, it's making it easier for people to vote. I mean, I have literally the easiest vote in the country. Unless I lived upstairs from the voting place, it couldn't be easier for me to vote. And I'm a white male. If I needed to show ID, I wouldn't, and they'd still let me vote.
Yeah. That was actually going to be, like I said, my closing point is that I feel like
your closing point
for as much as
he wanted you to wait in this water for longer.
I was gonna.
For as much as I've heard you speak about how passionate you are about things like civil rights and things, I do find it odd that it sounds like you're speaking quite a bit like a person with privilege when you say things like, I don't give a fuck about expanding voter access and things like that.
Well, what I'm saying about expanding voter access is that I'm not going to vote. I don't think anybody should vote. Why would I want to make it easier for people to vote? I don't think anyone should vote. I think if one time...
Do you not believe in democracy at all? Is that the thing?
I believe in the idea of democracy. Sure.
Okay.
Yes. That's not what we're doing at all, though. That's not what I'm talking about right now at all. I'm talking about, next month, I'm not going to vote in this election. If you want to talk about democracy, we can certainly have a conversation about that, but I'm talking about not voting in November in this specific election, which is not what democracy is about. I mean, that's... democracy the same way that this is capitalism, the same way that it's a Christian nation. I mean, it's the same way that this is the best country on earth, the same way that people died for my freedom, the same way all that bullshit. It's in name only.
I would support you if we were talking about like a presidential election with like an electoral college, but that's not what we're talking about, right? With like a state representative or a district judge or a school board council election. Like all of these things are probably just simple majority votes, and those are also things that you'll be abstaining from.
Yeah, that's correct.
Like, why not even pick up your ballot and fill out those parts of your ballot and just not vote for Senate if you think like that's a bullshit election? Your ballot still counts for those other spots.
I'm not saying that the Electoral College isn't democracy, or that the way our bicameral legislature isn't democracy. I'm saying the way that we're not an informed populace and we're making decisions without the information, that's not democracy.
Okay.
The way that we don't let, felons don't get a vote. Well, then we're not even fucking talking about anything, because it means that the majority of what? Now we're talking about a group that we're paring down. If you're not a legal citizen, if you don't have all your paperwork figured out, you don't get a vote, even if you live here, like right next door to me. Now we're talking about a much smaller group. You got to be 18 years old to vote. What the fuck is that about? Is there a... What's that about? You got to be 18 to vote. If you have Alzheimer's, you can vote. I know for a fact my grandpa's registered to vote right now. They would have let his ass vote. So what group are we choosing?
With the assumption that you have at least one more and we fix those three that you just listed off, would that allow you to feel like you were ready to vote? Like, I guess I'm just wondering, are you making like the perfect the enemy of the good?
Oh, no. I'm just listing off. I'm just running through a list of many of the things that are bullshit about that, about the idea that this is democracy. I'm not staying home because I don't like the candidates. I'm not staying home because the politicians aren't speaking to me. I'm not staying home because I think that the media is in the pocket of corporate America. I'm not staying home for any of those reasons. I'm not staying home because I'm lazy or because I don't care. I'm staying home because the system is fucked. And the entire system is predicated on the idea that we are picking it, that this is what we want. We're choosing it. And they hold an election. Every November, there's something you can vote for. Every other year, we're putting people in Washington, and every 4 years, we're picking a president. And those guys have the power to kill you on the street or to send a drone to some island on the other side of the earth and just bomb kids. They have the power to lock you up for the rest of your life. They have the power to take money from your paycheck and then spend it on whatever they want to do. They have all of this power that is derived solely from our persistent belief in voting, and it's a shame. The only thing that we're doing is giving power to these people when we vote. If no one voted, if they held the election and no one showed up, no one would get seated. No one would win. And no one would get to go to Washington and fucking, play puppet master with the budgets.
So
you're saying that things will get better, hopefully. You're saying that I should go there and I should vote for the person who's most closely aligned to my values. But I have many, 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 many values. Many. And just because someone thinks the same way about race as I do, or says things that I agree with about healthcare, that doesn't mean that I should allow them to waltz into office and do all of the other horrible things that I disagree with. I would really like universal healthcare. I would, but if the deal was I could get universal healthcare but we could still just fight whatever war we wanted to fight, and we could spend all of our government money on this machine and just say fuck all to the homeless. That's not. It's not. Maybe technically it's closer to what I want, but it's not actually closer. It doesn't get. It's not. I'm not getting any closer. The longer that we vote, the more this system is solidifies, the more this system is legitimized, the further we get from the system that I want, which is not this.
So you don't doubt that, like, whoever gets the most votes wins the election, right? Like, we're at least on the same page there.
How do you mean doubt it?
Like, you agree with the assertion that whoever gets the most votes in X election in America wins that election. Like, there's not rampant fraud that, like, skews the vote counts in some way that, like, makes someone win who shouldn't win. Right, who more people did not vote for. To be clear.
Actually, very rarely do I think that's the case. In this last election, more people voted for Hillary Clinton, but Trump is president, right? And my state is gerrymandered to fuck, and we're not even one of the worst ones. So quite often, even if you win the majority, you're not actually winning the majority of the people in that area. But save for those two things, yeah, I don't think somebody's taking over the polling booths and putting fake numbers in. No.
So, like, let me lay out for you a brief history of politics in California.
Okay.
What you've seen...
Let me say though, if you're gonna get into this, I do want to say though that someone is choosing the politicians that we get a vote on though. So in some ways, of the two people that do end up on the ballot, I believe that the numbers are counted. They're counted reasonably well, and the person who got the most in that specific contest ends up winning.
Great.
Okay.
Great. Yeah, so at least we have faith in the legitimacy of the fact that we're all counting votes, and whether or not those votes were cast in with good info or whatever is a different matter.
Right,
but, like,
right.
Okay. So, real super brief history of politics in California is that it started as the gold rush. It started skewing left and left as Hollywood crept up and it got more affluent. And eventually got so far left that they passed a law that said that it's a top two election state in the primary. So whoever the top two vote getters are in any primary, even if they're both Democrats or whatever, then they're the people that are on the ballot for the general.
Right.
The net effect of this law has been an overall skew left of California politics, because now it allows a state that was already solidly blue to skew further and further left, because now you're trying to beat the opponent on the left, and there's no worry about having it be a race where the two Democrats end up hurting each other and kill each other for the general election, sort of
right.
like we worry about in other states.
Well, it doesn't necessarily push it left, but because California was left, it's moving left. Correct.
Has in fact resulted in
correct,
or at least that's what a lot of political scientists will attribute that trend
right.
to.
But that's not like a liberal thing. That's like if had California been red and passed the same rules, it would have gone redder. Yes.
Absolutely. That was my exact point that I was going to, Trey. So, had California been right, had California been like an Arkansas or a Texas or whatever, yeah, I think you're right. I think it would skew further and further right, or whatever its political ideology was. And that's actually more reason for you, as someone who maybe feels like they're not in the majority of their state, to cast your vote, even when for the party that's just, or the candidate rather, that's just closest aligned to how you feel. And you just keep on trying to push it as far towards your ideals as possible. And every time primary election comes up, you support the most liberal candidate that you find. But then when the general comes, I strongly believe that, like, the bottom line is, with your argument, it almost seems like you're negating the fact that, like, one of the two candidates is going to win that election, right? So, like, you could not vote.
But like I said before, that's not true.
One of them is going to get all the power that you don't want one of them to get.
Like I said before, that's not true.
Okay,
it's
explain
not
to me how
true
that's
that
not
one of
true.
them. The reason that one of them always does get that job is because people do vote. If no one
If
voted,
one person votes.
correct.
One
If one person
One
voted,
person votes.
though in actuality, obviously, if
They're
one
gonna
person
vote for
voted, that it wouldn't
themselves,
happen.
right?
I would, but
Well,
but that's what I'm saying. If no
so
one
now it's like
votes,
whoever has-
then they wouldn't get that. Then no one would
And-
take office. That's what I'm saying.
First of all, I'm not sure that that's true, given the way our laws are set up. Like, I don't know that we have an eventuality set up for no one gets any votes.
Right, we don't.
Washington just tried to pass a law that those seats have to be filled
Right.
by whatever is currently a majority. So it would not happen here in theory if that law got passed this time.
But yeah, I guess
But what your argument is
My
that
point
somebody is going to win.
in the overwhelming likelihood, yes, one of those two politicians on the general ballot is going to win. So you might as well cast your vote for the guy who's slightly better on terms of like women or people and things, you know?
I
does-
see
like,
what I see
yeah,
what you're
I agree
saying,
the
but
system's not
everything that
perfect.
I mean, all of my arguments, that doesn't really change any of the arguments that I've made. What I'm saying is that being slightly better isn't better at all. It's a net negative. I'm saying it's a net negative to vote. Yes, when I look at an election, there's almost always one person who I would rather have be in office of those two. But never is there a person that I want to be in office running. And as I said at the beginning, it will never happen because no one that I would ever want to be in charge would want to participate in this system. But I'll ask you two questions, and which I think will explain my point here. If you were going to get murdered or raped, you would choose one of those two given the option, right?
Murder.
You'd rather be murdered than raped. Correct. Okay. Do you want either of those things?
If anyone's paying attention out there.
Do you want either of those things to happen?
Oh, no. But
Would it
like,
matter
if I was
that you were
forced to choose?
Would it matter that you were given a choice?
Well, okay, so the analogy is a little bit fucked up because like the only thing you could do to force me to choose, right, would be threaten me with death, which is kind of the thing that you're threatening me with in the right, like it's either murder you or rape you, otherwise I'll kill you.
Okay,
Which doesn't really make sense.
Let's say we're going to cut off one arm or we're going to cut off one leg.
Ooh, that's a good one. Okay.
You got
let's
a
do it.
choice. You're either going to get your arm cut off or your leg cut off. And you
Uh-huh.
get to decide if you want to.
Uh-huh.
You want to pick one?
I would still pick one. Do you want to know what it is?
Yeah.
I'm going to say leg.
You're going to say leg. Here's the bad news, though. Joe says arm and I say arm, so we're taking your arm.
Okay.
Does that feel any better? Does anything about that? Does anything about what happened there make you feel like you're closer to something that you wanted?
Yeah, I'll tell you how. You and Joe both know how I felt.
How do you mean?
Unlike if I had abstained from voting, where you don't know if I preferred you take my arm or my fucking leg.
We don't know because we
Check
voted.
and fucking mate, bitch.
We don't know because we voted by ourselves. It's absolutely a secret ballot. In fact, it's impossible for either of you to know who I
Yeah,
voted
but it's
for.
not. It's not in our country though. It's not.
It is.
Like we have numbers afterwards. Like it may.
Yeah,
be
your
an
arm's coming
anonymous
off.
ballot.
Your arm's coming
It may
off.
be an anonymous ballot, but we can still go back and count.
Right.
And we still know
But-
what the number shook out to be. And we happen to know that there were only 3 people that voted in this, and so it's
But the
not hard
the
to
only
tell.
important thing here is that I don't know if you wanted your arm cut off and if you wanted your leg cut off.
Again, nothing stops me from actually saying, "Hey guys, I'd prefer you take my leg," and you guys can still hear me. Same thing applies with voting. you can still say your thing, right? You can still protest the entire system while still taking as much power as you can from that system and casting your vote when you have an opportunity. Like, yeah, I agree. It's not exactly like being able to drive a fucking M1 Abrams tank, but I mean, it's the only power you get. So you might as well try and use it.
It's not the only power that you get, though.
And if every other person that felt the same way in your state were to vote, and the numbers are what the polling suggests, the Democrat would probably win, and you would, in fact, be closer to having someone in power that was closer in line with your ideals.
If someone's going to cut off my arm or cut off my leg, and they ask me which, I'm saying, fuck you. I don't agree with this system. That would be how I would use the power of my voice. You guys can vote. Now, you two are going to vote, and you're going to pick which of those two things is coming off me. But you know for sure that I didn't want either of them to come off. And you know for sure that I didn't vote to pick them. If you said you wanted your arm cut off, and Joe voted to cut your arm off, and I voted to cut your leg off, Joe might think that you got what you wanted.
We don't know that, Trey. What we know is that you didn't vote. We might think that maybe you had a shitty job that wouldn't let you get off, or maybe your polling place wasn't close enough.
Yeah, but by that extension, you don't know that I didn't vote anyways. I mean,
no, actually, we can tell if you're a registered voter and you didn't vote. That is something.
Yeah, but you can't tell whether or not I couldn't get off work. You can't
right,
tell whether I didn't
people
vote.
Just discount people that don't vote. That's what I'm saying. That's why I think it's better to cast your ballot. Like
why
yeah.
I don't understand why it's better to. The point of my not voting is to not give the power to these people. I don't care if they know that I intentionally didn't vote, or if I didn't vote on accident, if I forgot what day it was, if I couldn't get off work. I don't care if they think that I showed up. I don't give two fucks what these people think or know about me.
That's what I feel like is a key difference in the analogy, though, is because what the analogy ought to be is the population asking you whether or not you want to lose an arm or a leg, but you're definitely going to lose one. 30,000 people are busy and not paying attention and don't answer the question. A small percentage of people do answer the question, and it happens to come out that you lose a leg, and you're angry about that. But what is in fact the case is that if you were to get together with all those people and write an initiative to get on the ballot to say that we don't want to take people's limbs, you could do that. It's just a matter of mobilizing all the people that are currently not motivated to vote.
Okay, except for that in reality, to cut around all of the side on this analogy, in reality, I don't want this system. There's no way to bring up someone in this system if you don't want the system. I can't vote to destroy the thing. Right? I mean, that makes sense to you, right? I don't want the thing. I don't care if it's slightly better or slightly worse, or if they tell me it's going to be slightly better or slightly worse. I don't want the thing. It's the thing that's the danger. It's these people who have gained power from this voting system that we have, the outsized power, and are doing with it what pleases them, that I have the problem with. There are terrible things happening in this world, absolutely. And we could all vote and make things better for some people. Make certain things better for some people. But we're not going to fix the country by keeping this system that has, since its inception, been shitty for the people of this country. That's what I'm saying. I understand that it could be, things could get a little closer to what I wanted. I understand that I could vote for people who supported universal health care, and universal health care is something that I want. But it wouldn't fix the main problem. the root problem, the thing. I am in a literal way, I am a one-issue voter. In that my one issue is that this government is a fucking train wreck. So if I vote for it, I'm taking away the one thing, or one of the things that I can do. I'm taking away my voice in the argument. And if you think that not voting, if you think that staying home has no effect, I would say that people who stayed home put Donald Trump in office. Now, it's not the effect I wanted.
Yeah, that's
it's
exactly
certainly not the effect that I wanted.
I'm saying it doesn't have no effect. I'm saying it has the opposite of their intended effect. It doesn't send the message that they're hoping to send of "I'm fed up with this bullshit politics." It ends up just omitting their voice from the argument.
If you would ask people who voted for Trump, or you asked people who didn't vote across the board, I think all of them would give you that exact answer, that I'm fed up with what's happening in Washington and I want to change it. Now, I don't agree with the way that those people want to change things, but
i.e. the Trump vote,
the MAGA crowd.
I think Sanders Democrats are the same way.
Well, and I'll tell you what, it is the view of many that if we would have ran Sanders, we would have beaten Trump. Yeah, and Sanders is polling higher than Hillary right now, which is wild because 3 years ago, if you would have said fucking Sanders versus Hillary, most people wouldn't even know who Bernie Sanders was.
Yeah,
but
true.
Bernie Sanders came in and marshaled a whole lot of votes from people who weren't going to vote. That's where he drew his popularity. So I mean, I just think the idea that not voting is absolutely worthless. That's just something that they tell you. If you look at what's happening and you look at the numbers and you look at what politicians talk about, non-voters are a highly sought after group. Now, I'm not highly sought after. Okay. I don't have a highly sought after vote. But not voting does send a message. Sometimes that message is these people are easily manipulated. And sometimes that message is all we have to do is get like 50,000 people in this town to come in and vote and we'll sweep it because most people here don't vote. Sometimes that's the message. I don't condone laziness or abdication of responsibility, but best outcome for me is no one shows up and votes.
So...
And the second and the closest thing to that for me is that like 30% of the people show up to vote. That's my voting for Hillary, who's talking about universal health care, kind of, but is still going to continue the war in Iraq and Afghanistan. That's my close enough. Is shitty voter turnout polls. That's what I get when I don't vote, even though I know I'm not going to get everything I want. And I'm not gonna flip on the news and find out nobody showed up. But I'm not voting. And when I flip on the news, hopefully, they'll say that voter turnout was shitty again this year. And for what it's worth, I'm crushing it. I mean, if you want to go back through the elections of the last 30 years, the not voters, the guys who want to see voter turnout in the shitter, have been crushing it. We're almost undefeated.
So do you feel like this year you guys are going to teach those politicians a lesson?
No, absolutely not. Well, kind of. The same lesson.
What's the lesson that you hope to actually... So, like you said, that you can't vote people in that'll destroy the system, which right. I think to some extent I agree with. Like, I remember thinking it absurd, right, that like Republicans seem to always run on tickets of like, I'll destroy these branches of government or whatever. Yeah. And it's like, you can't run for government and then say you'll destroy the government. That doesn't really make sense.
Right, because the government can't terminate itself. That's not built into the Constitution.
Well, I mean, yeah, there's nothing that forbids it, but like, I guess the point
Yeah, there definitely is.
Like,
it definitely says in the Constitution that you can't tear the country down. They call it treason, and you go to jail for it, or you hang.
Well, again, that's like U.S. code. That's not in the Constitution. At any rate, the point is that I think that you do have a good point that it's probably not reasonable for us to assume that we could elect someone in who rose to the level of national politics that is going to dismantle national politics to the level that it seems like you desire. I mean, obviously, you agree with the idea of incremental change, so I guess I just don't. To me, there seems to be like a disconnect here, to where like,
I didn't say that I believe in the value of incremental change.
Yeah, I would say from last podcast, I would interpret Trey as hating the idea of incremental change, but yeah, that's my reading.
I think incremental change sounds great. I do. I haven't seen it ever though.
Oh, okay.
I think it'd be fucking awesome. But a whole bunch of Jews just got mowed down like 4 days ago, so we're not getting much further. I don't know how far we've come, but incremental change. You're saying incremental change. I like the idea of incremental change. I'll sign on to that.
Well, yeah. So I guess I assumed as much, and I'm just confused as to how you don't think that like a step in the right direction would not be to try and cast your vote to get someone who's at least slightly more in line with your values.
Again, there is no one who is in line with my values so closely that it's worth endorsing all of the other shit. Again, it's a net negative for me.
Huh.
That's what I'm saying. The root problem that we are dealing with right now is not that the Republican Party is against universal health care and that the Democratic Party is kind of a little bit, if you really press them on it, supportive of the idea of universal health care. That's not the problem. The problem is that those fuckbags can decide if we cover everyone in the country and take care of everyone in the country who gets sick or not. That's the problem. Is that people who are elected under this sham that we live in get to have the control and can create wars all over the world and can decide whether or not you spend the rest of your life in jail. All of those things. That's the problem.
So this kind of gets back. Does this maybe get back to how you don't really like the idea of representative democracy that much? Like I remember when we talked about the idea of how subject a politician ought to be to the whims or opinions of its constituents.
Yeah, I love representative democracy if it works correctly. But I hate the way that what we have now.
Yeah. Like from what I recall of that conversation, it felt like you wanted it to be much more responsive to the public opinion.
Correct. Yes. Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. That's essentially the argument I'm making right now. This week, Donald Trump decided to send 5,000 troops to the southern border to protect it against a caravan of people who are seeking refuge, who are also like 940 miles away and moving on foot. But we're going to put up 5,000 people there. And if those people whose lives are so fucked up where they're living that they're going to walk 1,000 miles to get help, if we're just going to shoot them dead, and that person and one person can decide that, the situation is fucked. Our system is fucked. If that's what's possible. What has been possible, what one could do hypothetically has always been scary. From time to time, what one does do, though, is horrific, and it shows us what the real side of this government is. And something like this, sending 5,000 armed kids from fucking Nowheresville and downtown, and a dude that I know's little brother, just regular ass kids, sending them down here to make sure that all of these people who are sick and scared and running for their lives don't get to come into this country. If that's possible, fuck this system. And it's both sides, dude. I mean, Obama, like, for real with a remote control, just killed an American citizen who hadn't gone to court when he was in office.
Yeah.
Just with a remote control. Just was like,
total fucking bullshit.
just was like,
Absolutely.
hey, we know where this dude's at. Just kill him.
He wasn't on American soil at the time, though, Trey. So therefore, he had no rights.
No,
right?
he wasn't. But
I was
Huey
kidding.
Newton was.
Obviously, I was fucking joking there. Anyone who happens
Right.
to be actually listening to this fucking podcast,
Right. So
because that's awful.
I don't know,
when he was
but I
an
mean, are you
American citizen
super
and didn't have
psyched?
due process.
Do you have like a picture of you with your I voted sticker and hanging up on your wall? And how excited are you that you picked that dude and gave him the power to go to Washington D.C. and pick up a remote control airplane and fucking kill some dude who hadn't been to court? I mean, how psyched are you about that vote? And Obama was by far the best president that we've had in several lifetimes. How psyched are you about it?
Yeah, so I get your question. I definitely had my reservations.
In all
about
honesty,
Obama.
how psyched were you about voting? I'm asking you just a personal question. How psyched were you to vote for Obama?
I'm trying to answer your question honestly. So, the first election, I was super psyched, right? Because he was a black guy running for president, and I really wanted him to win.
You
and I
put
was
that in a
super-
really weird way, but okay. It's a really weird way to say that, but okay. I agree with you. If I know
I'm just
nothing
being
about him,
honest.
that's what
No,
I'm saying.
I mean,
I
he
agree
was
with you.
obviously the most intelligent guy I heard speak, and he was black, and that was like 2+ points, and that was way more than the other politicians had, in my opinion. So there you go.
Right.
The second time, yeah, I was more proud to vote for him than I would have been had I voted for Romney, and more proud to have cast a vote than I would have been to not cast a vote.
Would you have been excited to vote for him again if it was Hillary versus Donald Trump versus Obama? Would you vote for him again?
Given that choice, yeah.
Okay,
Definitely.
cool. So even though you know that he killed a dude with a remote control, you're still showing up
agreed.
to fucking pull that lever.
Agreed. Yeah, there are fucking downsides. There's no politician that I can ever remember that was totally in line with everything that I wanted them to support.
For real, I'm
Most
not talking about
just even like a passing regard for the rights of a secular American, let alone like not just like butt fucking religious liberty the entire time they're in office.
I'm not talking about somebody who's closer than someone else. I'm talking about you voting for someone that you know killed someone in cold blood. I mean, is there any other way to say it? That he ordered the death of someone who had not been convicted of a crime in court. Is there any other way to say it? That's murder, right? I mean,
it's totally murder.
right. So we always couch it with this person
Trey.
is closer to me than the
Trey.
other person.
Hey, I just want to be clear. Isn't it murder when we kill like a terrorist in another country with a drone strike? That's murder too, right? Just because he's American, I guess, is my point. That doesn't make it more murdery. It just makes it more illegal.
No, it absolutely makes it more murdery to kill a U.S. citizen who hasn't been convicted of any crimes than it does to.
I think it shouldn't, but it certainly does with the way the system is now.
What are you
right?
talking about?
Both men killed by a drone strike have a manila folder of equal height with equal weighted evidence proving that they're a terrorist who's executing a fucking plot in the next week. We have a reason to kill this guy with a drone strike. Is it more murdery to kill an American citizen just because he's an American citizen and hasn't gone through a trial than it is to kill an Iraqi citizen?
Well,
I don't think it is.
I
just think that it's more illegal.
That's the difference between. But that's the difference between murder and killing, is whether or not it's illegal, right? Like if somebody breaks into my house, I can shoot them. If I just walk out into my yard and shoot somebody across the street, they're both the exact same act. One is murder though because it's illegal.
Okay.
But
So,
what I'm saying is, but that's not. But that's not. I'm not trying to split hairs on which is more murdery. What the reason that I bring up the guy, the American who hadn't gone to court is, it's one thing to kill someone, it's another to do it in like brazen disrespect and disregard for the U.S. Constitution. Because if you're in office to uphold a document and you act in discord with that document, then what the fuck is going on? Then what is your job? What is the job of the U.S. president if he is acting against the U.S. Constitution or against the will of the people or against the edict of the Supreme Court?
No, I mean,
I think it highlights
situation. I do think though that there is an argument to be like I can't believe I'm fucking
make
saying
it, dude.
Words
Say
right
it.
Now.
Sometimes you got to kill people.
There is an argument to be made that when someone has expressed that they are about to attack their own country, that they're basically not a citizen at that point.
Okay.
They don't get the same rights that they normally get. Like if
that's not what the rules are,
building,
but I see what you're saying.
Right, that's right. I know that's not what the official rules are.
Right.
I'm saying there is an argument to be made there, and I doubt that a jury would convict someone for killing the guy that was about to blow up a building just because he didn't go through due process, right?
I don't know. I mean, they should convict him. So I don't know which is worse. I don't know which is worse. Is it worse that they would convict him, or is it worse if they didn't convict him? You know what I mean? It says something horrible about us either way. My point of bringing that up, though, is that my central issue is that those in power are not actually tied to any real set of rules or laws, and we are so far from them, not distance-wise, but like in this strata, and we're on the other side of the military and the police, that we couldn't stop them from breaking the rules even if we wanted to. And it's so far fucked up. It's so far past the rule of reasonable representative government that you would be excited to fucking pull the lever and vote for a dude that you know for a fact is a murderer. In the system that you advocate, the fucking joy of incremental change and of hopefully getting something that's a little bit closer to what you want would lead you to vote for a murderer. But I'm the asshole because I'm not going to vote. You know what I mean? How fucked up is the system? Your argument to vote, I believe, is sound, and I don't begrudge you the duty. And in fact, if the only reason you voted was because it's like a celebratory exercise, if you said that the only reason you did it was the same reason that you fucking put like milk and cookies under the Christmas tree or shut off fireworks on the 4th of July, that it was just like a way to remember or to think about ideals and some moral truths that you hold. If you said you just voted out of pageantry, but it reminded you of what this country could be, that would make sense to me. And if you find a candidate that you do like and do support, or that you do think is going to do good, and you vote for them, I think that that's great also. Me personally, though, I've stood at attention and watched the flag fly for as many elections as I think I had to feel like the people who got murdered in my name, to feel like their lives weren't in vain, or whatever we need to do to show respect for that.
I didn't think we could get more depressing than last one, guys. Every time. Okay.
A lot of those guys got to drive tanks, though, and not a lot of them, but some of those dudes got to fly fighter jets. And if you told me that you were comfortable killing 20 people that you'd never met if it meant that you might get to break the sound barrier, that's a neutral in my book. That would be my line. You said, yeah, I got to fucking break the sound barrier, though.
Did I tell you guys that the other day I met a Vietnam vet who was he was just like an older guy, and he's starting to go out, and he just started talking to me and kind of just assumed I knew things that there's no way I should know, and I just played nice because he's like,
I flew the AR-14 there and AUT-6 and that kind of guy.
Yeah, and I was like,
guy.
yeah. He was like, you know what AR-14 is? Like, yeah,
Yeah,
no,
you
I
know what I mean.
totally do. Yeah. And so he's just going on and he's going on, and he was a bomber in Vietnam,
Jesus.
and he was just like, I was so upset with the government. We always knew that there was this dam outside Hanoi, and if we blew that thing up, it would have flooded Hanoi and ended that war, and they just wouldn't let us do it. And I was just like, all right, I shouldn't let this guy talk.
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah.
Fuck
Yeah,
me.
that dude just told you a story where he could have flooded an entire city, but the government refused to allow him to do it. This is a side note and personal opinion, but I would guess it was because it makes fiduciary sense for us to continue to be in war, and that would have ended it. And
Yeah,
so
who
he was
knows?
forced,
I don't know.
instead of blowing up that dam, to just drop bombs on kids every couple of days. Yeah, what a bummer.
Any
Bummer.
closing thoughts, guys?
I hope you don't think about this when you vote. I didn't intend to ruin anybody's attitude about voting.
That's why I voted before I talked to you about voting. I do everything before I talk to you about
You sent it in.
how you feel.
Are you
about it.
psyched?
I'm like, I ate a fucking pomegranate yesterday. How do you feel about pomegranates?
Oh, damn, you
Dre?
ate a
Pomegranates
real?
are fucking awesome.
You ate a real pomegranate?
Yeah, of course. What? I don't
Fucking
actually. I
peeled
don't know
that
what the
shit?
real part means.
Took that
I mean, you
hour?
took
Oh,
like
yeah.
a pomegranate, a whole pomegranate.
Yeah.
and
Oh,
ate it?
yes.
Yeah.
Oh, like I'm still confused. I just want to make sure that I'm not diving into deeper water than I think I took a pomegranate from the store that you would find at a store and spent time peeling it and then ate the seeds.
Wild.
Okay.
Damn. I mean, I'm fucking around a lot of my week, but I don't. I haven't gotten
have
to
that
the
kind of
eat
time.
an actual pomegranate stage.
Yeah, that's some serious fucking leisure, man.
That's so much
know.
worse. If I
know.
find myself wearing sweatpants and eating ice cream on the couch while watching like midday Maury Povich, I'd be like, "Fuck, dude, you gotta get up." But if I was like halfway through a pomegranate, I'd just be like, "Jesus Christ, my fucking life."
See, I see it as like with a lot of fruit, you know that it was kept around because everybody ate them. But with the pomegranate, you know it was kept around because only Egyptian royalty ate that
That's
shit.
true. I mean,
And
that
then
is
it's
fucking
just-
Clearly
opulent.
the
Yeah.
only fucking thing that would grow wherever it would grow, right? Like,
Yeah.
like, 'cause
Like, what the
otherwise
fuck
you'd
else
grow
is going-
any fucking thing else.
Every once in a
so,
while,
you know.
every once in a while, it's nice to think how far like fruit came before it got to you. Like,
Oh
that's
god,
right.
yeah.
This
Oh, God.
plane flew fucking first class over an ocean,
Yeah.
and I'm gonna
Yeah.
eat it while I surf
And
on
it
Twitter.
probably had like a tank that is me-sized of some chemical sprayed on it through its lifetime, like more chemical than me. On
Oh, that's
it.
especially true for bananas. You guys know that those are
Oh.
yellow, right?
Jesus.
Yeah.
Bananas.
Yeah, I've
that
heard
you
all the
eat
shit
are
about
not
bananas.
not supposed to be yellow.
Bananas are
This
dope.
is-
Though. Bananas are like the most.
is-
Bananas are the opposite of pomegranates. Pomegranates
All
are the
clones,
dumbest.
too.
Are in the dumbest like form, and banana is the smartest form.
Or the dumbest form. Oh shit. Okay. Anyway, good talking to you, dude.
It sounds rad to eat a pomegranate though.
Dude, if you forget the first part of it, then you feel sweet as shit.
I think you
For
got
the
to don't
second
you got to like remember it though? Isn't that like the value of it? Like if you just ate a pomegranate
Listen.
like you ate an apple, wouldn't that be like even more opulent and like horrible of you? If you're just like, yeah, I fucking eat pomegranates whenever I want to, you know?
I don't even have to give a shit about my liver or low intestine. I think given enough cognitive dissonance, I could explain any which way how it's a good thing for me to eat a pomegranate.
I think it's great,
Remembering
yeah.
peeling it, not remember peeling it. I'll come up with a story. It's fine
That's cool.
because I mostly just want to eat that fucking pomegranate.
Rationalization's awesome.
Yeah, it's tight.
I think pomegranates
Uh,
are fine, dude.
Hey,
We've got like 22 more years before we're in a war for water.
Well, okay, so I'm eating pomegranates. So I'm pretty sure that it's going to be like 35, 40 for me. So that's why I'm eating the pomegranate, dude. It sends a clear message. Sometimes I like to throw my peels out in the trash right next to
Peel in the trash.
Anywho, even when I'm in the car, so I don't know if you remember those days of being like a little kid.
Are you the guy who fucking leaves the banana peel in the fucking cup holder?
No,
don't do that. Don't do that.
I take it, I bring it inside.
Okay.
Like a patient, good person.
Okay.
And I
Throw it
throw
in
it
the
out in the trash. I'm stipulating that I finished this pomegranate halfway through a car drive also in this particular scenario.
All right, we'll leave it. We'll leave on a laugh though. So I go to this little creek that I know of. It's in the middle of nowhere. It's cool as shit.
Okay.
There's this just little gravel kind of turnaround there that is like a little bit of a camp spot. It's enough for like a couple cars.
Okay.
So it's back on a dirt road. So I'm staying the night there the other night. So I fish till dark. The area though just has fucking trash all over it. I mean, it's like an unkept. It's like just barely a camping spot, and so nobody checks it. There's no one coming to clean it up, and I guess people from the area just come and fuck around.
Right.
So I knew it was like that. Like I say, I've been there. So I brought a couple of big trash bags. So I fished, come off the water before I go down. I'm gonna fucking walk around, pick up all this trash. Headlamp on, fucking big LED flashlight, picking up trash. Telling myself like that I'm a good person. That's like the first 10 minutes, where I'm like doop-de-doop-de-doo, and I like find a little broken bottle.
I'm being really good right now. I'm a really good guy.
Yeah, I'm like, this is just a good thing to do.
More people should be like me.
Good thing for life. I had caught a big fish that evening, so I was like, this is a wonderful place. I want to preserve this area. I love it.
Fuck this fish later.
And I come there a lot. Like I go
Definitely
there. I go to this creek quite a bit, like a couple times a month. Never leave any trash, of course, but it is a place that I go. So it's like people coming here. The trash is a result of people coming here, and I'm people. None of it's mine, though, obviously. I got like a thing for, tiny pieces of fishing line come out with me. So I'm picking it up. I'm like, man, I'm a good dude. It's a good thing to do. It's be a nice place. I'm picking it up. That lasts about 10 minutes. I'm doing the thing where I like pick up the broken bottle, and I find like the old Pop-Tart box, and I like put the bottle in the Pop-Tart box so it doesn't, cut my bag. I'm like, boop doop doop, getting all my shit to go down. That lasts for a while, and then there's a while where I'm like, man, this is a lot of fucking trash. This is so much fucking trash. And it goes on maybe 30 minutes in. I'm thinking about like I can recognize when people came more than once.
God.
Like I see like like an archaeologist. I'm like, this collection of 3 pieces of trash was also over there. Surely these people came a second time. I'm going through whatever. Maybe 45 minutes in, I find I'm like, someone collected their trash while they were there, and then just fucking hucked it in the woods. You know what I mean? Which is like a certain level. I don't even know if I hate that. Would it be better if they slung it all over the place, or if they're gonna put it in the woods, is it better to put it together? I don't even know.
Oh,
and I'm just like, the wars cannot come soon enough. And so I'm picking up this pile of shit. Of course, it has rained like several times since then, and I get to the bottom of it, and there's a fucking diaper in there.
Oh.
And I was like, man, that's a level of, you brought the baby. You knew there was going to be diapers. And you knew you didn't bring anything to clean it up with. So they drove that fucking diaper out to the creek and then just put it in the fucking woods. I fucking hate people. But the real thing that pissed me off, though, the thing that I found where I lost my shit, an hour probably into it, I'm like all up and down the creek line. Yeah, plus it's a creek, so like if you leave a bunch of trash like here, then it like rains and gets up, and it's like, this is over like probably a quarter of a mile of shoreline. And I find
you are a good person, Trey. I just want to say,
yeah,
it's all right.
I would have definitely stopped at 30 minutes.
The sun goes down at like 8:30. That's when it's dark, and like no way I can go to sleep then. This creek has Wi-Fi, so I was just listening to the ball game while it was happening. I'm not that big, I'm just passing the time. Passing time.
The Wi-Fi on the creek.
What's that? Well, I mean, I get cell service.
She's got that
I
hot side.
I got cell service.
Okay, gotcha.
All right, give me the thing that made you angry. Go.
Which is just me saying that, like, I'm not that great a guy. I just had the time. I can afford trash bags. I'm not the bottom level shittiest person that's on earth. And then I find fucking Squeeze-Its, which in the first thing that I thought, those like old plastic juice type liquid.
Yeah.
Oh,
It was
okay.
Yeah, it's like
Yeah,
Kool-Aid.
yeah.
It's not even juice. It's not juice. It's a thing you give to kids that's red or green or whatever or purple that's not actual juice. It's a horrible thing to give to a child. A horrible thing. And I find Squeeze-Its laying out in the deal, which my first thought is like, fuck, I didn't even know they made Squeeze-Its still.
Yeah, it kind of seems like this is what led. Well, first of all, Danny's dying, and then secondly, this is the thing that
Get him to
led
squeeze
you
it.
to this podcast particular rant. Is you
No.
found this in the
I'm
woods and you're
I am
like,
gonna bring it back to the beginning though. Already decided I
Be
wasn't
honest.
gonna vote. Here's
On the way back home, you did get yourself a squeeze.
no.
You're like, oh shit! I didn't even know
I
those.
would have though. But here's the deal about the Squeeze-Its. That is what really fucking crush my mind is. If you bring a baby in a diaper out to the woods and throw the diaper away, that's just you're being a horrible person.
Should throw the baby away, obviously.
The baby should be taken away. I don't think you should throw the baby away. Do you know how fucking... I would be aggravated
it's
to
bad
the
for the
max if
environment.
there was a baby in that pile. That'd be way
Yeah, it's
worse
bad for
than
the
it.
environment.
Oh, yeah. Especially with all this
Jesus.
fucking corn syrup they're feeding these babies. No, but if you have Squeeze-Its, that means you brought a kid who is old enough to throw something away, and you let the kid throw it on top of your other shit. Like, that's teaching a kid.
He was probably misbehaving while he did that, right?
Well,
Like,
that's
why not just give him a fucking chore? Hey, go throw that away. It's like a mile away. Get back here in 10 minutes. Okay.
Yeah.
No, it's
like
worse because
they-
it's like, what? That kid now thinks it's okay to just throw your shit. Like,
Well,
it's
yeah,
one thing
I mean,
if an
there's that.
adult is like, fuck this place. Or they're like getting high or whatever, and they're like, fuck, I forgot my Teddy Grandma's box. You know, that's one thing. But the toddler cannot get out there. I mean, this is miles outside of the city. You have to have been driven there. And so a toddler had an adult there with them. And the adult gave them the Squeeze-It. And when the kid was done with it, the adult was like, I don't know, fuck, wherever, just drop it. And taught that kid to leave it. They're making more litterers. My whole only hope in humanity is that these baby boomers just fucking die, like, pretty quick. You know what I mean? The only hope we really have is that these old people who are horrific are going to die out and the young people will come in and save things. But if they're teaching their kids to litter,
Yeah, it's kind of hopeless.
I don't know that it's going to get better. That's insane. Could you imagine teaching a kid to litter?
Yeah, let me just try and... Like, I don't want to break your spirit, Trey, because I thought we were going to end on a happy note, but...
Yeah, I thought we were in Dan laughter too.
Oh, this is us, like, not worrying about
I
when Dan's kid dies
literally
in the war.
know 0 other people that have spent anywhere approaching an hour just like, oh, I'm going to fish here, but first I'm going to pick up all this trash from all these other people and put it in the trash bags. And I'll hike that back with me towards my car for a few miles so I can throw it out in that trash bin like a proper disposal. Never known anyone. So we're fucked. I mean, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Like, you're one guy, and there are clearly at least 10 toddlers that are
Oh, yeah,
real
that are
in
fucking
love
my
with
whole world up.
Squeeze-Its.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just
Literally fucking my world up. Literally throwing trash into my world. Could you,
And here's the
what
thing.
would you allow your kid to do? What would you be less likely to allow your kid to do than throw a plastic juice type drink container on the ground?
Play with power tools.
Really?
Yeah, no, I'd be less likely to let him play with like a power saw
A saw.
than throw a plastic bottle.
What about like a drill
power
that didn't have a
cutting
bit in it?
devices? Yeah.
A drill without? Ooh, okay, that's it. No, let's play this game. Let's drill down. But
It was worse for me because he looked in my face.
Oh
and he
my
said
God!
that.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
must
Well,
have
at least
been
somebody of the 2 sets of eyes that rolled, at least one set was seen.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, that was you ended it on a laughing note, so that's
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
Let's leave it there. Good
Cut-
job.
sure.
Cut off the first like 20 minutes and like the last one.
Yeah. So, again, thanks for listening to a strong disagree. Do go out and vote. Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah. Hey, if
Depending
you're
on-
not, if you still have any faith in our democracy, I encourage you to vote.
Yeah, I'm in the middle as per usual. So
I'm
do
so
it if you want
surprised.
or whatever.
Yeah, don't come out too strongly, Joe.
Yeah,
Careful.
I wouldn't want to have an opinion on something. That'd
Yeah.
be rough.
If you're in a competitive district, definitely vote.
Oh my God, vote.
Definitely
fucking
vote.
vote.
If you're not, though, you know the way it goes. You're fucking
If Ted
wasting
Cruz
your
is
time.
your fucking senator and you don't vote, you're a motherfucker.
Yeah.
If you're listening to this podcast and you don't vote, you're a motherfucker.
If you're having sex
I'm
with Ted
dead
Cruz and you
serious.
haven't killed him yet, you're
That too.
like one of the 300 worst people on earth.
Come on,
Ted,
man.
Ted
Catch up.
Cruz for human president, guys. Ted Cruz.
That's
Yeah,
my
check
favorite
out
fucking website. Have you
and
guys ever
check
checked that
out
shit out?
Yeah,
Ted
it's
Cruz
awesome.
for human president if you've got the time.
It's so
Uh,
good.
Thanks for listening, Pete.
We're on Twitter.
Yeah, peace, man.
Find us on Patreon and Facebook, and we'll see you again, or at least talk to you shortly. Be good to yourself.
Yeah, we won't
Be good to your neighbors.
We'll see you.
Boy.
Peace.